wherever you are from this wall, we just wanted to say a very, very big welcome, and we're very grateful for you taking the time to take part in this webinar around the Advanced Management Program. And then to start with, I will probably start the introductions with myself. My name is Abdullah Salah, and I work as an associate professor at the Alliance Manchester Business School. And my role is around leadership and management, and I am the academic lead and the program director for the Advanced Management Program. Which is, of course, a partnership program between Alliance Manchester Business School and the Foundation for Professional Development. I have been in the academic world for over 20 years now. I may not look it, but I promise you I'm feeling it. I have worked in different institutions, different universities across the UK and outside the UK over the past 20 years plus. And I'm always very much humbled, as well as feeling privileged to have met so many people and worked with so many people, beautiful people and beautiful minds across over 2 decades. And to see them in positions of responsibility where they are making the change that we so thoroughly need and deserve within our spaces. And again, I would probably now invite Gustav to introduce himself before we move any further.
Thank you, Abdullah. I'm Gustav Wolfert. I'm the Managing Director of FPD. I think I've got another decade on you, Abdullah, in academia. That's why I've got grey hair. And for those of you who do not know what FPD is, we are a social good organization operating out of South Africa and trying to create a better world across the world, I guess. So over the years, we've really focused on education as a conduit to develop people, and it's in that context where we've got this partnership with Abdullah and Manchester.
Thank you very much, Gustav. So, as an alumni, Gustav, of this program, I think we'll be very much interested in knowing your journey and your experience of having undertaken this program and how it has led to your transformation as the managing director of FPD.
Thanks, Abdullah. So where he's doctor, it's because he's got a PhD. Where my doctor comes from, I am a medical professional. And I think for me, one of the biggest problems that we have in almost all the areas where people are trying to create positive transformation is that typically the people in leadership positions are there because of their subject matter expertise, not because they've got leadership and managerial skills. And I spent 6 years in Geneva working with the UN agencies there. And I think for me, it was the most noticeable thing was that the fact that you might be the top expert on climate change or infection control, or doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't mean you are automatically and through some mystical process going to become a leader. So I enrolled on the Manchester course 27 years ago, and it was for me startling to discover how much I didn't know. I thought I'd spent 6 years in a management position and I thought really good manager. But if you're a self-taught manager, you've got blind spots because you don't know what you don't know. And what really, for me, was the transformative thing was that when you realize that you actually, if you apply these skills, how much more effective you become in creating change in the world. The obstacle has always been it's bloody expensive to get a good quality management qualification. And that's why this partnership with us is now so exciting. And I think we should move on to that, Abdullah. But the one thing I can, and you welcome to go and look me up on LinkedIn, etc. But I've used these skills now for my whole career. Started FPD with, I think, 3 of us, and eventually grew it into an organization that has really made an impact in the world. And it was purely based on the skills I've got from this program. So I do think, coming back to my sort of amateur manager complaint, is I do think subject matter experts can be very significant and transformational leaders as long as they go and acquire a management qualification. If they assume that they just automatically going to be good managers, the reality is the research shows that they tend to be really bad managers. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gustav, for that. I think one of the things that you've alluded to is around how the program has uh, 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 led to your transformation and how it has impacted you as a leader and becoming more impactful in how you bring about change, but also how you lead people. And the University of Manchester, which is a global leader in higher education, um, uh, uh, more specifically the Alliance Manchester Business School, which is ranked number 5 in among the top 5 business schools in the UK, is I mean the desire is always around how do we transform the leaders of tomorrow, but also how do we ensure that the leaders of today are making the difference that the world wants to see. And it's all about how you impact your spaces as leaders. So as you can see, the University of Manchester, more broadly, but the Alliance Manchester Business School is a highly rated business school, and it holds the triple accreditation in terms of its credibility. And as I said, it's ranked among the top 5 business schools in the UK. More specifically, when it comes to ranking, although we don't want to focus too much on rankings and accreditations or credibilities, but I think it's important to state the case as to why we think this partnership is immense, is significant, and it can contribute to the difference that we want to see as leaders. So the university is the business school is ranked number 1 in the UK for operations, project, and supply chain management. It is also ranked 5th in the UK for global MBA by the Financial Times. It is ranked number 4 in the UK and 20th in the world for business analytics. It is also ranked number 3 in the UK and 11th in the world for marketing. It is ranked number 5 or 5th in the UK for accounting and finance by the Times Higher Education. And it is also ranked number 1 in the UK and 3rd globally for the global MBA careers by the Financial Times. And I think these are just some of the accreditations that underpin the credibility of the business school, and I think that demonstrates the kind of impact we want to have uh, locally as well as globally as a business school. And having this partnership program with the Foundation for Professional Development I think speaks volumes in how do we allow that transformation to happen. So I would now pass on to Gustav to just highlight some of the dynamics that underpin this partnership.
Thank you, Abdul. I think the important thing that we're doing here, and it is, as far as I know, not been done before, is really to say, how do you leverage the online presence that we've got? Because we've got over 600,000 alumni across 110 countries, to really break down what has always been the barriers to education. And money is always a factor, right? The reality is, if you want to go to a top tier business school, it costs you a fortune. The second one is geography. We all know that the closer you are to a capital city, the better your chances of access to academia. And the third one is time away from work. Those are the three big things that inhibit access to quality education. And this partnership between us and Manchester, what we're really doing is say, how do we leverage the power of the internet to address those three factors? And we're going to look at that as part of this webinar. How do we reduce cost? How we make this course more accessible through it using an asynchronous online format? And the fact is, it's designed for people who are full-time professionals, because the type of people we want to attract are people who are in positions of leadership, but who need to develop their leadership skills and really develop a specific type of leadership skill. Next slide, please, Joan. You flicked forward that. No. Okay, is that, I think, okay. So I've actually mentioned this stuff, but I think the important thing is what I've seen in my part of the world, and I'm sure which you'll see in most places, is, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we're in a brand obsessed world, right? And the certification of your leadership qualifications influences your career path and trajectory. So I think the Manchester certification is very strong internationally, as Abdullah said. And if you are a professional who needs to get a management qualification, get one with a brand that stands there in the top 20 in the world. As I said, this thing is fully online. It's asynchronous online. So in other words, most of the time you study at your own time and your own pace. There are monthly interactions with faculty or with examples of transformational leaders, but those are scheduled so that it meets people, doesn't matter where they are in the world, and they're also recorded in case you miss it. And then I think a key thing in this course is this transformational leadership project. So in other words, we're not going to, on this course, we don't ask you to just memorize a bunch of theory. We ask you to actually do. And you get to implement a 12-month transformational leadership project. And that is the most incredibly empowering thing, is to start realizing you can make a difference. Doesn't matter where you are, in what level in an organization. And then we're going to look at the pricing, but the reality is we've managed to bring the cost down very dramatically. So Abdullah, if you want to talk about the competitive landscape out there.
Right. So I think what the University of Manchester does well is how do we provide elite level education in a non-elite way. Yeah, and I think, as Gustav did mention, it's usually down to pricing. How do you deliver quality, high level quality education without the price tag. And what you would see, and what this partnership program does, is that it does exactly that. In comparison to the landscape and competitors that exist, that offer similar programs or the exact type of program. And what you would see is that when it comes to the cost of the program, it's about $3,600. Now, if you compare that to other institutions around the world, you would see that that is significantly lower by many folds. And I think there is a recognition that education shouldn't come at a cost that is unaffordable. So the issue of affordability is very, very important in the psyche of the university, the business school, but also within the scope of this program. And as you can see, there are others that offer similar programs, but when you look at the cost, um, we price the program quite low, not because of anything, but because we want to make high quality education accessible to all. So if we move to the next slide, right. So I think all of you here present today are in some way leaders in your own rights. Whether you lead corporations, or whether you lead third sector organizations, or whether you lead NGOs, or whether you exist in the public space or in the private space, right? What we have in common in terms of our understanding, our realities, is that the wall of work has become a VUCA wall. It has become very volatile. It has become very, very uncertain. It has become very complex, and it has become very ambiguous, right? And these are things that are not just happening in a slow way. They're happening in a very intensified way, in a very amplified way. And what you tend to see is that whether you work in the public space or whether you work in the private space, we are encountering these challenges in unprecedented ways, in ways that we have never seen, right? And as leaders, we are grappling with ways on how do we navigate these landscapes in a way that allows us to have the most impact, right? I think as leaders, it's all about making a difference in a positive way, right? But when you have your ways of making those differences become entangled with these different dynamics, then it becomes even more difficult. So how do you make the difference you want to see? How do you bring about the transformation that is needed to ensure the sustainability and the viability of your organization? How do you lead in ways that allow uh, 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 um, you know talent to grow, that allow organizations to respond to their changing environments, that allows your service users to have the most positive experience of the services that you provide? And this is very, very key when it comes to the current environment we work in, right? And it's not just an isolated case. There is an ecosystem that exists within this landscape that we call the wall of work, whether you are in the private space, the private sector, or the public sector. Now, as leaders, how do you transform how you lead? How do you transform the organizations, the sectors, the systems that you lead and work in? How do you create visions that are implementable, that are achievable? How do you navigate through the competent strategic priorities that you have within the world of work? And I think what you need to think about is how do you do this at the individual level? How do you do this at the team level? How do you do this at the system level? How do you do this at the organizational level, right? Because we are in crisis. In all of those levels, we are in crisis. Whether it's at the individual level, there is crisis. Whether it's at the team, system, or organizational level, there are crises. So, how do you lead effectively in times of crisis that are currently facing us? Whether they are the geopolitical tensions we face as global citizens, or whether they are the organizational challenges we face as members of organizations, or whether it's around the teams that we lead within systems and ecosystems. So, how do you become more effective as a leader? Because leadership is a big responsibility, more so in a landscape that is volatile and very, very complex. How do you lead effectively? How do you lead with confidence? How do you influence without authority? Right. So these are things that I think are all embedded within the DNA of the program. How do we enable you as leaders to become more effective within your own spaces, in making those differences, in becoming responsible leaders within the spaces that you exist? How do you lead to empower and be empowered within these spaces? So the program, in the design of the program, it's informed by the principles of experiential learning, because we believe that your life experiences may be varied, but your life experiences are significantly rich. So how do we tap into your life experiences to ensure that you are able to locate and situate your realities as leaders within different spaces? How do you begin to broaden your horizons to capture good things that are happening in terms of practices and be able to customize those within your spaces? How do you lead with courage? So these are things that I think are very, very needed in a, particularly within the technological revolution that is taking, uh, 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 that is informing the space in which we work and how we organize work. So if we move to the next slide, right? So given that the program is informed by the principles of experiential learning, and how do we bring about transformation within your leadership practice, these are the respective modules that underpin the program. You know, we talk about transformational leadership in the sense of how do you transform, but how do you become transformed? Because if you are not transformed, you cannot transform others, your followership. We talk about corporate accountability and governance. And if, I mean, you more than anybody would know that when you work within these spaces, accountability and governance are important dimensions to effective leadership, right? But we know that leadership is not just about being accountable and being informed by good governance practices. It's also about how do you create strategic relationships within your ecosystem as a leader. How do you create strategic alliances within your stakeholder network, or within the ecosystems in which you work? How do you balance? So basically, how do you become a more effective systems leader that is informed by systems thinking, that is informed by collaborative leadership etiquettes? How do you develop all of these to become a more effective individual in increasing and enhancing your scope of influence? We also talk about strategic financial management. This is an important component in becoming a more effective leader, because we know the importance of finance, right? But so finance is a strategic component within leadership. So how do you develop that knowledge and that ability to ensure that you are much more rounded, you are much more holistic as a leader, right? Obviously, data science and as well as critical thinking. So when we talk about data science strategies, we probably will be looking at things like innovation, right? Innovation, we know, is not something that happens by chance. Innovation is something that happens through intentional and strategic design, right? And in a very complex world, in a very highly volatile landscape, innovation is key to unlocking the potentials and opportunities that the challenges present within our confines, and within our systems and within our organizations and within our spaces, right? I think it was Michael Porter who said, in this day and age, you know, it's not only enough for organizations to develop the capability to change or to respond to change. It's also about the agility and the swiftness to respond to those changes, because we know how things are happening. They are happening in an unprecedented way, right? So seeing these challenges and taking them as opportunities requires innovative thinking, innovative strategies, as well as strategic competence. So how do you develop all of these to help you navigate this kind of landscape that exists? And of course, critical thinking is something that we feel it's very important. It's a key aspect of becoming an effective leader, because it allows you to develop strategic foresight. And we know having strategic foresight as a leader or as a senior leader is very important in helping you see what others don't see, in helping you crafting your vision as a leader, and taking the organization into spaces of possibilities. So these are the respective modules that underpin this program. And as you can see, a lot of thinking, a lot of thinking has gone into the design of this program to ensure that once you undertake this journey, you come out of the other end much more informed, much more transformed, and ready to make the difference that we so badly need within our spaces. Next slide, please. So, all of that being said, who is this program for? Who do we design this program for? To start with, we say we design this program for any leader that wants to make a difference. And I think that is the very nature of leadership. It's about making a difference, right? It's about people who want to lead in a way that is responsible. How do you capitalize and how do you maximize the opportunities of today without compromising the future or at the expense of the future, right? So we need leaders or responsible leadership, right? We also want people who are very committed to making those differences, who want to bring about difference and make change within their spaces. People who uh, are visionaries, want to be visionaries, want to ensure that the challenges we face today are addressed in ways that are innovative and sustainable. We need people who are courageous. Some may say people who are mavericks, but people who want to really make a difference and are bold enough to apply, the concept of courtier subversion. How do we change the system within the system, right? So these are the individuals that we believe this program is for. And if you see yourself in any of these categories, then be rest assured that this program is designed, or when it was designed, you were in the minds of those who designed this program, right? So whether you are leading and existing within a private space, working for corporations, or whether you are existing and operating within a public space, working either for governments or working for third sector organizations, or working for NGOs, or working for global development agencies, or even working in the medical field. As long as you are committed to wanting to see these differences, then we say this program is designed with you in mind. Next slide, please. So before we go into the requirements for admission, it will be very helpful, again, if you have any questions, whether they are clarifying questions or questions of inquiry, uh, please do use the chat platform. And if you're not able to use the chat platform, do put your hand up, and we would let you in to ask questions, or respond to the chat platform, because it has been monitored. So I would now hand over to Gustav to talk about the entry requirements, or admission requirements for this program.
Thank you, Abdullah. And just to pick up on what he said, I think you just have to switch on your TV in the morning or go to your social media feed to see really how volatile and uncertain the world is. And I've spent a big part of my career in the areas where donor funding is incredibly important. And it has been devastating to see the impact of the changes in the administration in America has had on the whole global ecosystem that tries to make a difference. And also to see how spectacularly unprepared most of those leaders were to deal with this. So we've watched really big international NGOs and research organizations basically collapse because suddenly they had to deal in an area of uncertainty. And they were all being run by subject matter experts who are brilliant in their specific area, whether it's human rights or what climate change or whatever, but didn't have the leadership and managerial underpinnings to cope with what hit them and what keeps on hitting them at the same time. So this course is really designed for this very uncertain and unsafe and rapidly changing world that we live in. So part of our making a thing accessible, we've tried to make it as accessible as possible. So basically, if you've got a university degree and you've got a workplace environment where you can go and affect change, or even if you're affiliated or have access to an NGO outside of your workplace where you can get involved, you're in. But we also acknowledge that there's some of the most transformative leaders in the world have been people who never finished university. So in that case, tell us your story and apply. And that really is just by submitting a short sort of write-up of who you are, where you are, what you've done. And if you're one of those people, you're in on the course. We're not going to be elitist on this. We are looking for the people who really want to make a difference and want to make a better world. Next slide, please. Please, at the moment, we're seeing acknowledging hands going up, but we're almost at the end of the presentation. So my suggestion is let's wrap it up and then we'll go into the clarification questions. Jan, okay, I think it's fun to see what does your certificate look like? That's what it looks like. I've got one hanging behind me. It is the more old-fashioned version from 27 years ago, but it has got pride of place amongst my qualifications. Next slide. Okay, so we've got to the end of this thing. So I think if we can stop the presentation, then we can see people better when they switch their cameras on. And let's go to the hands that have been raised. Okay, so Thembi, and you unmuted and you can talk. Thembi, Dube, your hands
I
up.
think they need to let them. I think they need to unmute them and
No,
allow them
yeah,
to show their
sorry,
camera too.
Francis, can you unmute Thembi, please? Oh dear.
Thembi, you're allowed to unmute. You can just unmute and then you can speak.
Oh, okay, yes. Good evening. I'm calling from Johannesburg, South Africa. It's evening right now in Johannesburg. It's dark outside. I just want to find out, because we've got also a British, what do you call MBA school here called the Henley Business School. May I ask, how different is it, this course, compared to an MBA? What's the difference between this one and an MBA?
My favorite question, right? So firstly, this is a 12 months part-time program, so it's much faster than an MBA. It's also much more affordable than an MBA. And it doesn't have the 50% divorce rate that's associated with MBAs. So it's much kinder on your work-life balance. But what we've really done is make sure that this course covers everything, all the skill set you need to operate as a leader and a manager within your organization. So my recommendation always is, people ask me, should I do a program like this versus an MBA? It really is, what is your context? MBAs were designed for young people with BComs to fast track their careers through corporates. If you're working outside of a company that's purely focused on the bottom line, you actually don't need an MBA. So if you're employed because of your subject matter expertise, adding on managerial competency this is what this thing is designed for. And we spoke a lot about who are the people we want on the course. We perhaps said less about who's the course not really suited for. So if your ambition is to become a billionaire, maybe this is not the course for you, because we are really not that interested in people who want to strip mine the oceans or something like that. We're looking for people who want to make a positive transformation in the world. Does that help, Dembi?
Oh, yes. No, yeah, I understand. Okay.
And just to add on to that, with this program, with the advanced management program, if you have got years of leadership experience, the program is designed in an experiential way. So it's more about what kind of return are you getting on your investment. And I think that is very, very unique to the program. So almost almost what you do, or all of what you do within the program, the activities you engage in are designed to help you understand the dynamics within your organization, to understand the dynamics within your teams, to understand the dynamics within your system. So everything that we design within the scope of this program is there to help you understand these things, but also be able to work with your teams to, for example, you may be asked to do a SWOT analysis or do a landscape mapping of your organizations or your team stakeholder network, and to understand who is your stakeholder network, how do you benefit them, but also how do they benefit you, but also what are the strengths and weaknesses within your system that allows you to maximize opportunities, but also the threats that may impact on your ability to maximize on those opportunities. So doing that kind of evaluation or analysis enables you to have a better understanding of where you're working, and it's more on hands-on. So you're able to drive much more benefit, much more meaning, and much more return in engaging with the program as a result of those things that you undertake and do within the scope of the program.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I work for the municipality, that is local government on this side of the world. Yeah, we've got politicians, we've got, the red hairs, and yeah. Well, I think it's a very good program. Yeah.
So, Joe, you,
Thank you.
you said you're in Johannesburg, am I right?
Yes. City of
Now, if
Johannesburg.
ever there was a city that needs transformative leadership, it's Johannesburg. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And I think what's unique about this program is it empowers people enormously to realize that everybody, doesn't matter where they sit in an organizational environment, can transform their organization and can transform their communities and can transform sometimes the world.
Yes.
We really have embedded in this program evidence-based recipe that comes out of 25 years or 20 years of research that looked at what actually creates a leader that transforms or at all these different levels, their organization, their community, the world, etc. And it's baked into the DNA of this program. So trust me, I can reference. If you look at prices, is less what you'll pay for first year for some courses at University of Witwatersrand. And as Abdullah said, we did not sacrifice quality. This course has gone through an international quality assurance body, and it has scored, so far they rate modules out of 110. So far we've not had a module rated under 106 out of 110. So no one sacrificed quality. This is a very deliberate decision to say we've got to find a way of democratizing access to elite business school education, because that brand is critical whether one likes it or not. Right. Thandi's got a question, so we've got to unmute Thandi and let her talk. Thandi, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, thank you, Gustav and Julie. For me, it's not a question. I'm just excited, and I want to say thank you very much for this, because I think this is talking to me. I'm a leader of an organization which is Positive Women's Network. It's an organization of women living with HIV, and we are operating nationally. I don't have a university like degree, but I'm the leader of that organization. So while we are like presenting this, I'm saying, wow, I think I need this as a leader of that organization so that I can transform myself and other leaders are within the organization. So thank you very much for this, and I'm like likely to have this invite. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, and you know what's happened to the HIV world? It has been decimated by the dismantling of USID. You know,
True.
us it's gonna put us back 20 years in our AIDS response globally. So
Mm,
more now, more than ever, you need leadership from people living with HIV. And we've got to
that's
get you to, we've got, and this is what this qualification does. It gets you a seat around the table, and it
mhm.
teaches you how to respond in that environment. Thank you very much for your kind words. Barbara.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's Barbara here. Uh, I'm so happy to see you, Dr. Gustav. I used to study with you, and I appreciate where I am now. The basic knowledge I got it via FPD. I started with just the simple like writing, report writing. I've got numerous certificates. So I wish there were many people I could tell that you can never go wrong with FPD courses. I have done higher management certificate in health management, and the which other one? The recent one. They are not recent anyway. I'm 59 years old now, and I think I've done them like 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah,
So
it's time for a refresher, Barbara. It's time for a refresher.
you can say that again. I'm not sure if you still remember me, but you
I,
used to
re-
make
I
me laugh
recognize you.
when you would say, you African ladies, I can never remember your names or your faces because today you come with one hairstyle, tomorrow you have another one. So I'm sure if you remember that, you remember me. So anyway, I just want to appreciate you. I will try to see if I can apply for this because, like you said, you don't need to have a degree, and I'm one of those without a degree, but with an accolade of lots of small certificates. At the same time, my biggest concern now or ambition is the mental health. You can see the world is really struggling mentally. So that's the avenue I'm trying to go with to help others and to also help myself. So really, thank you, FPD. Thank you, Miss. I don't know whether it's prof or what.
He's a
Abdullah.
professor.
Just call me
Really?
Abdullah. Just call me Abdullah. That's enough.
Okay, all right, Abdullah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
uh, may you all gain goodness.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Barbara.
All
So,
right.
so we have also some hands that are up. Daniel, you can unmute and ask.
All right, good evening. My network is slow, so I'm unable to turn on my camera. I'm Daniel from Lusaka, Zambia. My question is on the fee amount. Do you have any payment plans, or do you require a full payment upfront? Thank you.
Oh, we forgot to tell you. You pay by module. So you actually pay in 7 installments across the course. Because we know it might be cheap in international terms, but it's still a chunk of change if you're sitting in Lusaka. So the payment system is you pay per module as you go forward. So I think we've got 7 modules. So it's 7 equal payments you do as you go along.
And I think each module, the duration for completion of a module is it 6, 7 to 8 weeks.
8
8
weeks, yeah.
weeks. Okay.
So every 2 months you have to come up with some money. When we said earlier we're trying to make this thing accessible, we've done everything possible to make it accessible. Happy, Daniel?
Yes, very happy. Thank you very much.
Hope to see you on the course, Daniel. You'll get to meet me there as well. I've one of the privileges of being a lecturer on this course.
Ah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Right. Sekutile. I probably mangled it, but you can unmute.
Yeah, good evening.
Hi.
Tekutile from Botswana. About the requirements, I hear you only take those who are in management, but I've been recently been promoted to run a hospital, so I don't know if I'm also eligible to do that.
Yes. You've got to come. You're about to do one of the most difficult jobs in the world, running a hospital.
Yeah, I'm a nurse by profession.
Think about it, right?
Oh,
If you got a job and you say to me you just got a job at running a hotel, what's about the worst thing that can happen is you've got an unhappy guest. If you run a hospital, the worst thing that happens is people die. And healthcare is especially an area where we are very used to amateur managers. In other words, we promote doctors and nurses and pharmacists into extremely difficult jobs, and then we don't realize that we are supposed to give them managerial background. No, this course is absolutely designed for the challenge that's facing you. But what you will end up is running the top hospital in Botswana if you finish this course, because you're going to use every aspect of the course around building up this new job of yours. This is how I did the course. I did the course on establishing I used the course to establish FPD, and we've lasted a long time, and we've made a huge difference. So you're going to be very welcome on this course.
All right, thank you so much. I also wanted to ask what Daniel has just asked about the fees. Is okay?
Yeah, you can ask. You're happy about the fee thing. So, in other words, you pay as you go.
Yeah.
Strictly speaking, if you don't think we're good enough for you, then you don't have to go on. But I'm convinced that you will find this is a unique program.
Sure. Thank you.
Right. Anyone else who's got a question?
I think what we did not mention, Gustav, was that in addition to what the program delivers, you also have a network of peers on the program. So, in each cohort, you will have people from different professions with different expertise and with different years of service. So that is a very, very enriched space where you could learn from each other in terms of best practices. Because some of the best learning comes from how you engage with those networks that you work very closely with. So you may have people from different parts of the world, from either the UK or from Switzerland or from Ethiopia and from South Africa or from Botswana in your cohort, and understanding how different organizations and different setups or different systems work, I think would allow you to use that knowledge as part of, the broader horizon in ensuring that you are putting in place best practices learned from the network of peers you have on the program or in the cohort.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest problem of leadership, it's often lonely. And that's the big advantage of doing these courses and having a global group of people. By the time you finish the course, these will be people that you've built networks with. And that's an invaluable resource. To have somebody you can contact that you know and you've worked with over 12 months, and you can just talk to them about your problems, because they're going to be, they will have faced similar problems or they will have other problems. And we really are looking at how to improve and how to optimize the ability for people to have networking conversations during the duration of the course. We have sort of what we call town hall meetings or meet the expert meetings once a month. But we actually were today looking at how do we put in almost like a networking zone. So if you're on the course, because everybody loads up their profiles, who they are, where they come from, and you want to have a one-on-one meeting with somebody who's in your class, you can go there and schedule it, and then you have a private Teams conversation that you can get to know each other better.
Right. So, Gustav, I'm aware that we only have 3 more minutes.
Oh, yes.
Before we bring this to a close. I think I mean, if you are thinking of enrolling on this program, again, think about, planning is important. Make sure you plan, but also make sure you're in a position where you have, you work with teams or you lead teams, because that's going to be very important when it comes to undertaking the different activities and the different tasks that underpin the respective modules on the program. and those will be those are going to inform, how you are assessed within the scope of the program. But from what we have seen in the first cohort, it has been a significant success in terms of how people have benefited from the first module that they've just completed not long ago. So think about it. And if you, as I said, believe that you want to bring about change and you want to bring about meaningful change and you want to make a difference as a leader and you want to lead in a very responsible way, in a way that is sustainable, in a way that is strategic, then think about this program and think about how it could transform your leadership practice to become more impactful within the spaces in which you operate.
Perhaps what we haven't said, Abduli, is the next intake for the course is in September. We will also, if you've got colleagues, we'll record this thing and make it available on the course landing page. So if you've got friends or colleagues who missed this opportunity, please just direct them there. There's a quick question here that was addressed, equivalency issues. So business schools traditionally offer either a master's degree or something called similar, either called the Advanced Management Program or a Management Advancement Program or Executive Leadership Program. So the question, where have we pitched this course in terms of its complexity? Roughly at the level of the master's degree. So in other words, I hate to use the word because the people who have MBAs then beat me over the head, but this is in essence a condensed MBA program. We've just made it much more accessible and much more focused. But that's sort of the level that it is taught at, and that's why I said you can, with this qualification, you can run a global organization if you are in that space of trying to make a difference.
And we have got one question on the chat platform, which is how do you conduct it in terms of how is the program delivered in terms of the delivery mode? I think Gustav has mentioned that it's asynchronous in terms of the delivery of the program, and it's all online, and it makes it much more accessible in terms of how you can engage with the program, because we know that as leaders you have got competing strategic priorities and commitments, so you're not just a leader, you have commitments as in families and work commitments. So the asynchronous delivery mode allows you to integrate and embed this program into your structure of commitments without having to compromise all of those other commitments. So it becomes much more fluid for you to engage with the program. So all the delivery is online and you have access to all the online materials and learning. And as Gustav mentioned, once a month we have what we call, a town hall discussion, which is more of, a master class around the particular modules that you do. Somebody did ask also how.
Yeah, there's a question here about the NQF level. Remember, this is not a South African qualification. So, in other words, but equivalency to South African NQF would be at level 8. How's assessment done? We don't do tests and exams. Exam just tests your memory of somebody else's work. So the main assessment is this transformational leadership project that you do. And that is through a portfolio of evidence that you build up, and we want to see you go out there and do. So, in other words, it starts off with defining a problem or innovation you want to implement, and then over the 12 months period, you have a shot at it using a specific methodology we'll teach you. And it's one of those exams that that stands, it's called a capstone assignment. So in other words, it's in lieu of the exam. Each module has got work-based activities that you have to do. So as Abdulli said, if we're going to teach you how to do a SWOT analysis, you're going to go and do a SWOT analysis in your own environment, because your project will be linked to your environment. So all of that builds up into the project, and I can show you portfolios of people that have literally done the most incredible transformative activities. You can't believe that people get that done while they're busy doing a course.
Okay. So I think probably now would be the right time to bring this to a close. 'Cause I know some of you would have got other commitments that you want to undertake. But if you want to know any further information around this program, please do contact the team, the FPD team, and I'm sure they'll be very happy to help and support you, or signpost you, or clarify any things that you may have. On that note, Joanne or Francis, is there any final thing that you want to say to the audience before we bring it to a close?
Yeah, I think
Everybody,
it's just
there's somebody slipped in a question here about, do you do research on this project? Yes, you do, but you follow action research methodology. In other words, you research yourself and you research your own professional development and your own personal development while you implement this project. So if you don't know what action research is, go and Google it. It is a incredibly positive methodology of personal development, and you can do a PhD using action research. My wife did a PhD with that. So thank you very much, Abduli, for joining us, and thank you for everybody else, and have a lovely time.